Hello and welcome to this new edition of Business Africa, your magazine dedicated to the continent's business and economic news. As usual, you can win $150 in our Business Africa game. More details later, but first, today's top stories. Islamic finance continues to seduce Africa. We'll head to Senegal to find out about this alternative financing method.
All the meetings with the bank led to positive results in record time. For the 4-year loans, we were able to settle up in less than 2 years, at least for the first 2 or 3 projects.
In Ethiopia, coffee is aptly named brown gold. It supports more than 15 million people and has acquired its letters of nobility on the international market.
We consume something like 50% of the coffee that we produce, which is not true for Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda. They usually consume tea.
Water pumping station in eastern Rwanda has changed the lives of rural communities.
Before we were often afraid because we had to walk a long way through the forest to fetch water.
We start this new edition with a question of the development of Islamic finance, which continues to gain momentum despite the current crisis. This alternative finance compatible with Islamic law, particularly spotlighted in 2014 in Senegal and in 2015 in Côte d'Ivoire, with the launch of the Sukuk, a debt instrument allowing its holder to acquire a share of a given project, a formula often preferred to a classic loan. We went to Dakar in Senegal to see how the ICD, the Islamic Corporation for the Development of the Private Sector, works in partnership with both companies and the state.
On this building site in Dakar, 2 new apartment complexes are being constructed. It's a prime location for the emerging middle classes of Senegal, and a perfect symbol of a new player in investment in West Africa, Islamic finance. And it's thanks to the Islamic Bank of Senegal and the ICD, the Islamic Corporation for Development of the Private Sector, that property developer Senegindia was able to set up this real estate operation.
The bank has done a lot to promote Senegindia. Initially, we started a project here at the Almadis, with 2 blocks with 54 apartments, clubhouses, and 6 villas.
Then there were 2 ventures in agriculture, which is Senegindia's second largest portfolio. This was followed by the latest 2.1 billion CFA francs building project. Adding to the challenge was the fact Senegindia is a young company, only founded in 2008. For the traditional banking sector, it would be a risk. But Islamic finance proved much more flexible.
All the meetings with the bank led to positive results in record time. For the 4-year loans, we were able to settle up in less than 2 years, at least for the first 2 or 3 projects.
This win-win partnership is based on a form of financing particularly well suited for companies in need of support. Tamwil Africa acts as one of the ICD relay facilities, helping it carry out its role of lender.
C'est une finance inclusive.
It's an inclusive form of finance which takes into account the customer's needs, their constraints, and that considers the customer as a joint partner.
Qui considère le client comme un partenaire. Voilà. Nos interventions sont également adossées.
Our interventions are also based on well-identified assets.
Il ne s'agit pas de remettre un capital.
It's not just a matter of leaving capital to a third partner and letting him act as he pleases.
Et de le laisser gérer à sa guise. Donc nous sommes dans un partenariat qui prévoit
So we are in a partnership where, if there are losses, we absorb part of those losses if the partner has not managed it safely.
What is different about the bank's offer is its dual purpose of financing both the private sector and the state.
We are a retail bank certainly that's also a bit corporate, but our major clients are business, individuals, NGOs, institutions, and also it's the state.
In fact, in 2014, the government of Senegal issued a 100 billion CFA francs sukuk, or sovereign Islamic bond, on the Wemoa market with the assistance of the IDB Group. It proved a success, as 2 years later the bonds have been heavily subscribed. According to the ratings agencies, Gulf investors are very interested in the potential of Senegalese growth.
These are highly liquid countries, very rich, with many financial institutions based in these countries, and many will only agree to buy Islamic finance products, such as the sukuks.
A key advantage offered by the issue is that Dakar can raise funds in local currency, therefore making it less expensive.
In 2013, Senegal had launched a bond loan which had cost more than 8%, which is a lot for a country like this. When issuing in its own currency, the CFA franc, it borrows at a rate of 5%, sometimes less. Hence the interest to issue in local currency, and the sukuk meant access to local investors, accepting homegrown loans in local currency, but in the form of Islamic financing.
In this phase, for the leaders of the ICD, West African regional integration within Wemoa and partnership with governments play a key role.
The experience of Senegal was organized around the regulatory arrangements in force at the level of the Union, and this has also helped to export the experience to other countries, such as the Ivory Coast and other countries that are currently in the pipeline.
Of course, Senegal is a hub, is a regional hub, and through supporting Islamic finance, it will also help other countries, neighboring countries, to expand the provision of Islamic finance in their countries as well.
And individuals, not just governments, are also attracted by the offer of alternative investments. The Islamic Bank of Senegal, which only had 4 outlets in the country in 2009, now has 24, and it aims to become a major player in the banking world in the sub-region.
We are currently in Senegal, Mauritania, Guinea, and Niger. And for some time now, other banks that were not under Islamic finance laws can now apply to seek approval for Islamic finance activities. We call it a window on Islamic banking because it has been tried and tested.
Support and a reasonable return on investment are emerging as the 2 key benefits of the development of Islamic finance in West Africa, mainly for financing infrastructure. In June 2016, Senegal succeeded in raising 200 billion CFA francs. Mali, Niger and Togo recently followed Senegal's example. A regulatory framework established by the BCAO, the Central Bank of West African States, for issuing future sukuks in the area is expected to come into effect soon.
And we remain in the field of funding. Africa is tackling the issue of debt relief head-on. Visiting Paris, the president of Senegal, Macky Sall, confirmed that he had launched with several other heads of state of the continent a plea for what he called a substantial reduction of the African public debt and an adjustment of private debt on terms to be agreed. He also indicated that the African Union is currently working to obtain an extension of the G20 moratorium to the year 2021. The COVID-19 crisis continues to disrupt international air transport. How to continue traveling when most countries require passengers to provide their biological status, meaning tests, in relation to this new virus. To simplify the process and help airports resume operations efficiently, an Alsatian startup in France came up with the idea of a solution specially designed for the 20 million travelers between France and Africa. Vincent Tossa, you are the president of Safety Travel. Thank you for joining us on Business Africa to talk about your connected health solution, which allows airports to issue travelers with a COVID passport from their departing terminals. Could you tell us more about your startup?
Safety Travel, nous sommes une start-up française.
Safety Travel, or ST, is a French startup specialized in connected health. We're based in Strasbourg in the heart of Europe. Our goal is to develop an airport-connected health diagnostic and prevention system to allow airports to deliver to eligible passengers an authentic, certified, secure and personalized medical passport.
Safety Travel est une solution global.
Safety Travel is a global, efficient and relevant solution. Several modules, including connected health, artificial intelligence, resulting from 32 years of research, that can provide a reliable history and differential diagnosis, and thus enable the doctor to establish a reliable and relevant medical diagnosis.
How did you get this idea?
Alors, l'idée de Safety Travel était une évidence pour nous.
The idea of Safety Travel was quite obvious to us. With the COVID-19 crisis, like many citizens, I was forced to cancel all my trips, despite their importance. Firstly, because of the containment measures that I could not derogate from, and secondly, the fear of taking the plane again in a context where the health risk remains high and poorly controlled.
Face à cette menace, surtout concernant l'Afrique,
faced with this threat, especially in Africa, where access to healthcare is challenging, it was imperative to find a solution to secure the health journey of the traveller from Europe, the Maghreb, and Africa.
Du triptyque Europe, Maghreb, Afrique.
Who are you targeting?
Alors, concrètement, nous avons deux cibles à partir.
We have identified two targets for Safety Travel. Our main target combines airports, ports, train stations, and we have another secondary target bringing together all third parties, including states, NGOs, as well as the various institutions and organizations, because through these organizations we can effectively work to reduce the spread of the virus.
What about the benefits and the next steps for Safety Travel?
Alors, les bénéfices de Safety Travel sont à plusieurs niveaux.
Well, the benefits of Safety Travel are numerous and at various levels. For the traveller, Safety Travel provides the passenger with the ability to travel safely, even in the event of an epidemic. For airports, well, it restores traveller trust even during a possible health risk and anticipates their return to the airport with confidence. It also, from an economic perspective, there are fewer flight cancellations, and it avoids possible closures due to a health crisis. For states, well, contain epidemics in their territories. And the next step for us is to find institutional and financial partners for implementing and validating our solution, becoming the benchmark when it comes to airport health risk management solutions, and being present in all the major airports in the EU, the Maghreb, and Africa.
Vincent Tossart, thank you for your time. The American company Starbucks will soon offer blockchain technology to trace the origin of the coffee in its stores. This is good news, not just for consumers, but also for big producers like Ethiopia. This country, where more than 15 million people live from this culture, has long fought with international lobbies to have the specificity of its coffee recognized and to obtain better profitability. And finally managed to get there. Pauline Duchesne has more.
Almost 14 million cups of coffee are consumed every minute of every day around the world. Second only to oil, a lot is riding both economically and socially on the little black bean. Governments, industrial groups and entire populations. 125 million people earn a living from coffee growing worldwide. Here in Ethiopia there are over 15 million. Coffee doesn't just represent 60% of exports, it's also a true cultural tradition in its own right.
We consume something like 50% of the coffee that we produce, which is not true for Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda. They usually consume tea.
Traditionally, Ethiopians take their coffee at home. They drink it with friends or family and take their time. The green grains are roasted before being infused several times by the woman of the house. It's a far cry then from machine coffee.
In hotel and the house, the difference. The house is better culture Ethiopia.
Kaldi's Coffee opened its first store 15 years ago. The owner, Sadeh Azrat, dreamed of opening a Starbucks here in Addis Ababa, a trendy coffee shop serving brews from around the world. The multinational turned him down, so he opened Kaldi's Coffee instead, and there you can get any coffee you like, as long as it's Ethiopian. The menus, logos, staff uniforms, and even the design are carbon copies of the famous Starbucks chain, with a difference.
It's quite unique. It's a decent place. It's not like the other places, and the decoration and everything, I like it.
Macchiato is much better in the cafes because they make it on the machine, and it tastes much better. Much better. It's kind of hard to make macchiato at home.
Today, Ethiopian coffee is in the process of becoming a national cause, championed by people and government alike. A slap in the face for the multinationals.
We are voicing to introduce globally fair trade practices and different form of ways to alleviate the global poverty.
After the 2002 coffee crisis, a result of overproduction, NGOs started campaigning in favor of Ethiopian coffee. A successful international campaign led by associations such as Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade and Oxfam challenged the legitimacy of world market forces.
They are not paying a fair price for the farmers. They influence the market because if they are not, they decide we are not want to buy this coffee, there is no another alternative market to sell your coffee.
To protect themselves from fluctuating market rates on New York and London stock exchanges, the sector decided to create their own stock block. When the rate drops, they stock. When the rate rises, they sell. Better still, by guaranteeing top quality coffee, the Ethiopian producers benefit from higher, more stable prices. Thousands of sacks of coffee beans are stored in huge warehouses. The coffee is sorted, washed and tasted before being sent by truck to Djibouti and on to Europe, America and Japan.
In Zambia or in other Western Africa countries, there is a cotton market, a cacao market. It's the same problem in different parts of Africa. Globally, there is so many unfair practices because of this natural resource and the marketing. And the Africans are voicing again to support this fair trade things.
As with cotton and cocoa, coffee is a vital raw material in the fight against poverty. Not only is it a major source of hard currency, it also provides a living for millions of families. The mobilization seen in Ethiopia against the trusts is already proving fruitful.
It's a long fight, yes, because the multinationals have to be convinced to raise the price of conventional coffees. It is the problem with all the international trade. It's not only the problem with Starbucks. It is the problem of unfair world trade rules. The products which are going from the south are getting a very low price.
But in 2006, the US company Starbucks and the Ethiopian government finally agreed to the distribution, marketing and licensing of the Ethiopian specialty coffee brands. A great victory for fine coffees such as Harar, Yirgacheffe and Sidamo. The government strategy has succeeded in winning its bet to educate the international public and increase the popularity of Ethiopian coffee, with very positive results on exports and revenues. A sweet revenge for Ethiopian coffee producers.
Welcome back to the second part of our show. African economies are still struggling to recover from the collapse in oil prices recorded since the start of the COVID-19 crisis. Nigeria has seen foreign capital desert its financial markets and is threatened by recession. In Angola, Africa's second largest exporter, oil exploration is barely starting up again. As for South Sudan, it announced a severe shortage of foreign exchange and the collapse of its currency due to the drying up of its oil revenues. The government of Ghana plans to revive the production of kente, the traditional fabric very popular in the country and in West Africa. The idea would be to stimulate production of the famous fabric to serve local and international markets by training 5,200 young people aged 15 to 24 in kente weaving. The world rediscovered the fabric when members of the United States Congress symbolically appeared in kente scarves to speak out against racism in American society. I'm now taking you to the mountains of Rwanda for this report on the difficult access to safe drinking water for remote rural communities. But today, thanks to a pumping station, the inhabitants of these isolated regions in the east of the country can finally abandon the jerry cans, which is good news, especially since they benefit at the same time from advice to better manage this precious resource and protect their health. A report by Eric Meunier and Lorraine Rimondi.
This pumping station symbolizes the great efforts made in recent years to improve access to water and sanitation in rural areas of Rwanda. It's located in a virtually inaccessible mountainous area and was completed in July 2013. The African Development Bank financed more than 60% of the project. Today, the station provides water to nearly 50,000 people in dozens of villages in the region. This health centre is in Tumba, a small town about 40 kilometres from the pumping station. The impact of access to water has not only helped healthcare, but also the institution's finances.
In 2010, diseases related to water were the second most common of all those we treated here at the health center. In 2011, they were still in second place. In 2012, we managed to get them down to third most common. And in 2013, when the project became operational and we had access to water, these diseases dropped to sixth place. Today, diseases related to water are in eighth place.
Previously, the health centre had to fetch drinking water from more than 4 kilometres away by jerry can, each costing around 30 US cents.
In 2012, the average water bill was between 48,000 and 52,000. But now the last bill I saw for March is about 9,000. That's the difference.
With access to the network, the costs for water have been cut by almost $70 a year, a very large sum for this small care centre. If the construction of infrastructure is the most visible part of the project, other aspects may be less spectacular but equally important: education and awareness.
We met
with the authorities here, the area leader and the local health manager, and they showed me some houses that I hadn't been to, and together we started to educate the people there. We saw that some people were well trained, but others not at all. We talk mainly with the women because their activities are at home and they look after the children. It's easier to address them rather than the men because they understand the hygiene issues we're talking about better. They are more implicated as they protect the family, especially the children.
Women learn to manage water, taking proper care of used containers, storage options, and different ways of using drinking water or water used for washing or cooking. With easy and regular access, the women have to change their habits without neglecting the basic precautions to avoid contamination.
We tell them how to wash with clean water their bodies and hands for good hygiene. We explain how to wash their clothes and how to use the toilet and clean it. How to wash hands after using the toilet, and also the use of soap and the water pump. Toilets must be kept closed and cleaned every time.
Some 250 educators crisscross the area served by the pumping station, visiting more than 500 houses and 100 schools. The training is about how best to wash their hands and the management of latrines. The girls are the first to benefit from these methods. In the past, the lack of hygiene and fear of catching diseases made them avoid school. Not to mention, the daily water chores tended to happen during class.
Before, we were often afraid because we had to walk a long way through the forest to fetch water. Alone in the forest, the girls were scared because it took a long time. And it was also very tiring to make this trip backwards and forwards every day. When it was time to go to school, we often used to go and fetch water instead, and we'd miss whole days of class. Now that the water is available nearby, I come back from school and I do my homework. I no longer have to go a long way to fetch water.
All told, more than 600,000 people now have drinking water, and 150,000 others proper drainage, thanks to the pumping station and other infrastructure projects funded by the AFDB. In the north, with its remote and mountainous regions, access to water has meant significant progress in the fields of health, education, and the empowerment of women. Now the goal of Rwanda, supported by the AFDB, is to provide 100% of the population with clean water and proper sanitation.
Well, it's now time to reward our loyal viewers of Business Africa. It's up to you to answer to the following questions. If you're drawn among those who have given the correct answers, you will win $150. This is game number 533, so listen carefully to the two questions that follow, and good luck. First question, what's a sukuk? A truck, a financial instrument, a computer? Second question, how many people make a living from coffee in Ethiopia? 5 million, 15 million, 25 million. You know the answers. You can participate now by going to our Facebook page. Answer the questions, fill out your form, and good luck. And of course, don't forget to include your contact details, name, address, telephone, email, and the number of the game you are entering with the answers, of course. This is game number 533, for example. The winner will receive $150. As our winner this week, congratulations, you gave the correct answers to our game number 526. Here are the details. First question. What is the guaranteed minimum producer price for the main 2019-2020 cocoa season in Côte d'Ivoire? Answer, 825 CFA francs. Second question, how many judges are made up of the Common Court of Justice and Arbitration of the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa? Answer, 13 judges. Well, that's it. Business Africa is over for today. I'll see you next week, same time, same channel with Initiative Africa. Stefan Bionzi, co-founder of YouLearn, a know-how sharing platform, will be with us. In the meantime, you can catch this program on our Facebook, Vimeo and YouTube channels. And feel free to share, like and comment using the hashtag Business Africa TV show on our Twitter account @AfricaShows. Take care of yourselves and have a great week. Goodbye.